Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the JG Show. I'm Joey Guden, and welcome to episode 2. In this show, we are going to be discussing what it is like to be a special education teacher and a father. Could you imagine that? I couldn't think of anyone better to bring in for this subject than my final teacher during my senior year at Burlingame High School, Patrick Myers. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. I'm super impressed. Joey's studio is top notch. This is really, I feel very humbled to be here. It's great. It's great to be a guest.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Patrick. So why don't you, before we get into our little question and answer format, why don't you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
So yeah, I am 39 years old, born and raised in San Jose. So like Joey, born and raised in the Bay Area. Big sports fan, Giants fan, 49ers fan, and been a teacher for a while, and I'm a new dad. I have a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old. And, just I think living here is great. I think me and Joey talked about that. I've been living in Burlingame now for 7 years and absolutely love it. So just trying to live the dream, as they say, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all agree that Burlingame is a pretty spectacular town, in my opinion. This is a great neighborhood.
Agreed.
We're very, very lucky and fortunate to live in it.
Yep.
So I want to ask you, what made you want to become a special needs teacher? What made you want to work in special ed?
Oh, man. So good question. And we're going to go down memory lane, I guess, a little bit for me. And it's been neat because usually, I think I mentioned this before with you, we don't get a chance to talk about these things very much. It's really nice to be able to discuss them because you get busy and you're just going. And so it's nice to reflect and go back a little bit. What made me want to be a special ed teacher was, it's about 13 years ago. I was a nanny for a while, and I was a nanny to a kid with special needs. And I kind of let that path just led. I was a nanny and a babysitter, and then I saw this job posting for a child with special needs, and I applied and I got it. And it was like one thing led to another. I enjoyed it. And then I decided to go to school for it. It's really strange. I mean, I was doing it because it paid really well at the time. And I literally woke up one day and I was like, I'm going to be a special ed teacher, but it took a while to get there. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a really long time. And this is when I was 25 or 26 that this happened. So it happened a little later, quote, a little later in life. But once I knew, it was like I was laser focused and signed up for school and did it. But before that, it was really hard because I had no idea what I wanted to do for a really long time. And my 20s were really tough. They were the toughest time of my life.
Really?
And I say that because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was tough. I feel like I floundered a little bit.
That makes sense.
But then once I found this, the job has helped me in so many ways. I started there, and what made me want to do it, I couldn't tell you what actually made me want to do it. It just fit. Just like this fits with you. This fits like a glove on you. And it did for me. It was like I went in the class and it just fit. It was genuine to me. I could be a goofball, but then I could also be serious, right? You've seen me in my class. Like I could be myself, right? And that kind of made me, of course, you want to, it was a job where I could help people and do a good job for our community, right? There's that element. But I think the biggest element was I could be. It was a very genuine reflection of me, I feel like. Yeah.
That's really, really nice. It really is. So what gives you the drive to continue to do this job? What gives you the drive to get up every day and do this?
A couple of years ago, it's different. Now it's kids, right? Like you have kids, it totally changes.
Yeah.
And money, like to be honest, like it's very expensive to live in this area. And
absolutely.
And I'm very grateful to live in Burlingame. I mean, I teach at Burlingame High, and now like it's a weird thing that you do. Like a couple of years ago, it was different. I mean, I was very driven and more or less career wise, but But now it's like, okay, support the family. That's a very maybe guy thing, but it's real. Like when I had kids, the drive to be able to support my family was really big, and I think that is a big thing. Plus, I mean, I enjoy my students like that as well. To get up and go see them, that's one thing that's great too. I love going to see my students. I look forward to seeing them every day. They're almost like my little babies too, right? In a lot of ways, right?
They just bring so much joy, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and there's also responsibility there. You want to be able, just like I want to provide for my kids, I want to be able to fulfill my responsibilities to my students and be there for them, and there's a big element of that too. So yeah, good question.
No, that makes a lot of sense because obviously, like Patrick had just mentioned, you guys, it's like when you have a job and you're like driven in a certain way, it becomes a whole different ball game when it becomes about, look, I'm trying to pay the bills here. I'm trying to support my family.
Yeah,
it's a whole different game. It
totally
really
like
is.
For you, like you fit, and I like to do this where it's not just all about the Patrick show too. I want to know for you, Joey, like what. I wanted to ask, like, for you, what did it take to set this program up, to do this podcast, right?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Patrick. You actually inspired me to build this.
For real? No way.
Because back in early 2021, I was in your class. This was the heart of the pandemic. Yep. Everything was virtual. And we did this segment during our virtual classes called The Morning Show.
Yep.
And I remember
BHS Morning Show.
Yeah, the BHS Morning Show. And I remember I was sitting right here. I did it from right where I am now. And it was around that time where in my mind, I kind of conceptualized, what if I had my own talk show? What if I had my own radio show? And so I've been working on this behind the scenes for about 3 years.
Wow.
And then finally, I think it was about, I want to say a year ago, where something just clicked. Last summer, I was sitting in here right around this time last year in 2023, and I made like this small video about how stupid I thought it was that the people that were attending Taylor Swift concerts were wearing diapers so they didn't have to go to the bathroom during the show. And so I had done like a little segment on that, and I set myself up like this. And then the guest that I had on last week, Alex Rotundo, he actually messaged me immediately after I put that out and said, you should make your own radio show. I don't think it's that hard to get like an AM license. I don't know about FM, but an AM license is easy. So I was kind of like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start putting this together. So I started filming like little outtakes, like exactly what we're doing now here and there around September, October last year. And then a couple, I had some mental health struggles 6-7 months ago, and a couple things happened to me. So I kind of put things off for a bit. But then finally, when my mind cleared again, I was like, you know what? It's time to put this into action.
That's great.
That's how this show started.
That's great. Back in 2021, I could totally see it too, by the way. And it's neat to be here, right? Now you're doing the show. And back then where I could see, like, you were one of my students in my class. And I was like, oh, dude, Joey would be so good at that, But it's neat to see you go on your path and you got there on your own.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And just talking about mental health struggles, I also had some mental health struggles too of my own. And that's something people don't talk about very much.
No, it isn't, to be honest.
And I think it's something that I really appreciate how you brought that up, and like, because being honest about that and in a place, so it's neat to be able to talk about that. We all, it's hard to struggle, right? But we all have those moments in our life, and so
we all go through it.
Yep.
And like so much has like happened to me in that field in the last 2 or 3 years, and I never really used to talk about this like on in the public eye on a larger platform like this. But I think that after experiencing my own mental health struggles, I believe that, it's important to talk about these things.
Yeah.
It really is.
In a way that like connects and does that. It's not like a one-upsmanship thing.
No.
And it's like, oh, I've been there too, and I can appreciate that.
It's comfortable here.
And
it
yeah,
really
and it's
is.
like, okay, I can talk about that. And yeah, it's neat to see you make that growth. And, and sometimes I think I was talking about the movie Inside Out earlier.
Yeah,
right?
you were when you first got here before we started
the
filming.
whole point, right? It's like to kind of embrace the sadness sometimes, because that's the path that's going to lead to something better, right? And,
it is, to be honest.
And you have to go through that and allow yourself that time. It's really hard to do that because everybody wants it right now. We're in that kind of culture.
It's just like instant gratification.
We want that,
hustle culture. I want it, and I want it now. That kind of thing,
right? Like it's hard to deal with, and especially like now, a dad. I got 2 kids. Living in, and we're living in an apartment because houses are so expensive, right? It's the hustle culture. It's like you're doing something wrong if you're not able to buy a house, right? But it's like embrace.
They all say that.
Yeah. And it's like the idea. It's like, you know what? We love where we live. Super grateful for it, and have good people around me.
Exactly.
And another thing too, people don't really talk about. Of like, I'm super grateful for where I work and the people I work with. Like, there's just so many good things going on in my life. And super, happy about that.
No, I think it's. I think we both can agree that we have a lot. We have a lot to be thankful for here. We really do.
Man. For sure.
And back to your comment about how, back in 2021, you really saw me doing something like this.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is, so it took me 3 years to put this show together. It also took me 3 years to put the JG Spectaculars together.
Yeah.
Because I started, the first JG Holiday Spectacular was in December of 2018. But you see, I came up with that idea in 2015. So it took me 3 years to really build it and put it together. And I was already working on things behind the scenes, and I actually had I had a performance gig at Mills Health Center over in San Mateo. Every Christmas from 2013 until 2017, I would perform for the sick kids and the kids that were attending like the physical and occupational therapy and whatnot. I would sing. And toward the end of my time doing it, I'd say like 2016, 17 especially, they all would pull me aside when I'd be finished, and they'd look at me and say, "You need your own show, kid.
Totally.
You need your own show.
Yep.
Honestly, you've outgrown this place. You need your own show." And it was getting to that point, and that's what kind of birthed the Spectacular.
It's funny how like one led to another. Like
it did,
this,
literally.
Led to you doing the Spectacular, which led to this, right? It all goes together. But it's funny. I have like a 3-year rule. Like I've called it like in a classroom. It takes like 3 years to get a classroom together and running.
That's the truth.
Which in the most things in life, it's like, I don't know if this is like
it is
totally
a 3-year
anecdotal.
rule.
It's like a 3-year rule.
Well,
right?
to be honest with you, I think it's the same thing that goes for a football team.
Yeah,
like a coach, like
a program.
My uncle used to always tell me. My uncle Steve would always say that when you get a new coach on a team, especially for the NFL or anything, you have to give them till their 3rd year to really see the success. It takes that long to put it together. I think the same thing goes for it goes for a presidential term. A lot of times, the election year happens. First year, they've just gotten in, so nothing's really changed. Second year, you start to see things come together. But if they're doing good and they're making positive changes, America really flourishes in the 3rd year.
Yeah,
it just does.
Yeah, and kind of going back to 2021, it was nice because we had like a clean slate. We had this like canvas to do whatever we wanted to do for our class, which
Pretty
kind
much.
of, in a way, helped so many things. It kind of helped me as a teacher too to do things different because like you get in as a teacher, one thing you kind of get into like you do the same thing every year almost, right?
Exactly.
And it changes that. That totally forced me to change and adapt, which is a really good thing. And so just like you're saying, you went from one thing to another, similar to teaching. Like even though I can kind of be doing the same thing for a while, I totally changed during the pandemic. So
it makes sense. Well, I mean, honestly, the Spectacular started in 2018, but the shows that I carried out during 2018 and 2019 were far different from what I began doing in 2020.
Wow.
2020 was the year that my career basically it shifted. It completely changed.
Yeah.
That's when my studio came along. Yeah. That's when the shows got much bigger. That's when we started honestly putting a lot more money into it, and we had larger cast and crews, and it it blew up. It all completely changed because I believe what happened was during the pandemic, I went virtual. And so I met a brand new audience. So what I mean by that is that I know for a fact that during 2020, my fan base tripled. I saw the numbers.
Wow.
And I was like, holy, we've got something.
Well, and one thing, seeing it from the outside, now, from my perspective, too, it's interesting. One thing I think that goes unnoticed is the amount of work that you do behind the scenes. And
yes.
And the amount of time, like sometimes it's like you don't work for a while, but you're always thinking, you're always, doing something on it. I've seen your like work capacity is so beyond, I think, what I've seen most people have. And that's just a huge amount of respect for you. I'm not kind of trying to blow smoke or anything. Like your level of work, and I think so anyone that wants to try to do this, it's like you got to do it because you love it. And I think it shows in for you. Like you totally do it because you love it. And you work really hard at it. It's hard work.
I try very hard at it.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I'll be honest, I took most of 2023 off because I needed to.
Yeah.
Because of personal things that were happening in my life. That's why the Spectacular ended. And I decided I need to just take 6 months or a year and kind of, get on a clean slate, kind of like how we were in the pandemic. And I'm on a clean slate now here in 2024. And, I just decided it was time to, reinvent the wheel a little bit. And I think we have, and we've given birth to this now. Thus, the JG Show was born.
Sometimes we need that recalibration.
We do.
It's like a computer. You need to reset it. Right?
And I hadn't really had that kind of recalibration since 2018 when I gave birth to the Spectacular.
Wow.
That whole year, I took most of that year off, the second half.
Interesting.
And that's how it all came about. And then I pretty much just worked at it nonstop for 4 years. That's why when we got to 23, I just decided, you know what? I've had enough. I need to take some time off.
Yeah.
And now I'm back. It's 2024 and I'm back.
There you go. That's all that matters is coming back,
Yep. So, how has being a special ed teacher helped you be a better dad?
It's a great question. Being a dad, I think no matter what, you're never ready for it, right? Being a parent,
No.
And it's like anything in life that you might have an idea of it, but then you do it and it's totally different. I want to say now my daughter who's 3 is getting a little older, and now those things are clicking of like, setting up activities for her. And that's kind of helped like that aspect of like setting up routines and, different strategies to like reward certain behaviors. But like when they're babies, there's nothing that prepares you. It's like, it's like, it's
you're up all night. It's
yeah, exactly. Like right now, I mean, my little one, she's still not sleeping very well. And it tests you in different ways. Like, that you just can't really imagine until you experience it. It's like driving, right?
Absolutely. Driving is totally like that.
Totally driving where the first time you drive, I mean, you're like, where's the brakes? It's like you're going.
I felt that.
Yeah. It's hard because you don't have a frame of reference. Like you can see it on TV, you can play a video game on it, but like actually doing it is challenging. But it's also the best thing ever at the same time. It's like the hardest thing ever, or the best thing ever,
Yeah, and a lot of the hardest things ever end out to be the best things ever if you just work at it.
But yeah, as far as being a special ed teacher, like knowing how to set up routines and how beneficial that is for people and structuring time and again of like that goofball element, right? Engaging of like, but also how one thing I learned is how important attention is. And that's something that's really not discussed as often of like, kids need attention. They need a lot of undivided attention.
Yeah, kids do need a lot of undivided attention.
And people do. Like anytime, now with my wife too, like you need to have that time where you come together, right? And so it's where, when I'm at work and making sure I come home and like really giving my daughter, the 3-year-old, that undivided attention
that she needs.
Yeah, because kids and people, they need attention. It's something that, the attention in certain ways, and so you see that a lot when kids act out is,
truthfully, a lot of the reasons that we have, we have kids that act out, we have troubled teenagers, we have things like that. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons is a lack of parental attention.
Yeah. And I think one thing is knowing what I have in my control, right?
Yes.
And so that's one thing I have in my control is what attention I give to my daughter. So like, it's like when I get home, okay, don't be on your phone as much. That's one thing. One thing I'm bad at is I'll like always be on my phone a lot because I'm like, okay, I gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this.
Yeah.
And it's like I have to be really mindful of like, okay, I'm home, I gotta put my phone away so that, and I literally just put my phone away right now so that I can spend time with my daughter and give that undivided attention that she needs. So
Absolutely.
Good question.
Absolutely. Now, what advice do you have for any person that may want to become a special ed teacher?
So I like this question. I looked at it and I'm looking at it on the screen you have with there, which is amazing. This answer might be a little different than like your normal career one. I think it's getting your finances in order and understanding that aspect.
Yes.
Because once you start teaching, you are 24/7 hooked on that, and you really have to create systems in your life to have things taken care of, because you're going to be at your job. It's going to be really overwhelming. You're going to come home. You're going to be spent. You're going to be exhausted, and you're not going to have the energy to do other things that you normally did. Similar to parenting, right? But so having your finances in shape and understanding like what your expenses are, those can be really important. That advice I would have, like, get those things in order as much as possible.
Absolutely,
before you start,
especially in this economy.
Yeah, exactly. And I say money, I bring that up, but that's also working out, eating healthy, sleep habits, those habits. Get your habits squared away. And I bring up finances because for me, that area of my life I did not understand finances as a teacher. You think, oh, I'm a teacher, I don't have to do it. But like really when I started teaching, that's when I started kind of understanding personal finance a little bit better and like how to take care of myself in that way. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a big thing right there. At least you finally understood personal finances and you got it in order. And I think that is the biggest thing right there.
Yeah. Yep.
So now, what advice do you have for other dads that are a special education teacher or even just a teacher? What advice do you have for like a new dad that's a teacher?
Man,
for those who may be listening right now.
Man, Joey, hitting it on the head with these questions. So I'd say again that that attention piece, it's going to be really tough for your partner and you. It's going to test relationship a lot, and to really make sure and be mindful of like taking care of your partner. As a dad, to see your wife go through that, it's really hard. Their bodies, I mean, they go through so much. And
yes, they
you're
do.
Like, oh, like even after they're born, I mean, your wife goes through the craziest thing ever, which is like they grow a human being, then they deliver the human being, and then they have to feed the human being and take care of it. It's like, and as the dad, you change the diapers maybe, right? But like, it's really hard on the mom.
It's very hard on the mom, and watching her as a husband, watching your wife go through that is very, very tough.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And to really, maybe put your other aspirations on hold and, really like take care of as much stuff as you can take care of for them.
Absolutely.
And with the baby, because the first couple months of that are just really tough. But then, as they get older, like one thing this Sunday that I just started doing, things get busy, but like I took my two daughters now and went down to San Jose for coffee with my parents, so that my wife could get a break, right? And being intentional about that, because then it's like you get busy if you don't actually sit and be intentional about those things, like they don't happen, right? But like doing like, no, I'm going to take them this Sunday, we're going to go, so then she can get a break.
She can have a break.
Yeah,
and that's very important to give her that time.
Yep. Because
if you don't give her that time, that's where the relationship starts to fail.
Totally. Yeah. And it can, I mean, and it can get tough, like not going to lie, right? Like arguments go up, about little things and, and to really kind of be intentional about what you're doing with your partner. Yeah, I think use Amazon a lot. That's the other thing. I mean,
yep. Hey, no, Amazon is the best.
Hey, I know there's no plug for it. I know you're not getting paid by Amazon, but like for real, order stuff on Amazon. Make it easy. Order that dinner too for your wife. Like, don't don't skimp on the expenses there. I know I talked a little bit about that, but like, just get whatever makes things
easier.
Yeah, get the things that make you like, because it's like, you're going to be up all the time, and, make sure to use Amazon as much as possible.
Yes. Do you have any special hobby or interest outside of school and outside of parenting?
Oh, man, a lot. They always change, too. I mean,
that happens. I'm like that, too.
During the pandemic, really realized I enjoyed walking and hiking like the most of anything to do. Like, if I were to retire today, I'd just go
hiking
for
is
walks.
Great.
That still does. I mean, now with the new baby, we don't do that as much. But like, I think I always see you out when I'm out for a walk or something. So, walking, I gotta say, walking is my number one jam. I also love swimming, not like lap swimming, but just like going swimming in a pool or a lake. Like, that's the other thing. Super relaxing. The water is amazing.
I have to agree with you. Swimming is incredible. I love swimming. I just went a few days ago.
Nice. And I know you have a ton of different hobbies, which is so cool to see you do all these different things.
Oh, yeah.
I used to have a hobby of like more like computer, like building computers out, like performance ones. And
that's always very cool.
And,
I have a good number of friends that do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that kind of fizzled away. And, other things, it's like things kind of come and go, but I'd say right now, my hobby is, I think, back to walking. I mean, just going for a nice little short walk that's my jam right there.
Well, I mean, hey, we live in a walking neighborhood, so it's if that's your jam, this is the perfect neighborhood for it. I walk out around here almost every single. I used to walk every morning. Now I pretty much walk every single night. It's like part of my routine.
Oh, biking. Here's the other one. So I just realized it's like so funny. Sometimes you don't realize the hobbies you have. You're like, oh, wait, biking. I love biking. I didn't own a car for a long time. The car you saw out there, I just got it about a month ago.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I didn't have a car for 3 years? 4 years. I didn't have a car because where we live is super walk and bike friendly.
This is a neighborhood where honestly you could function without a car.
Yeah. And so we had to get a second car. I went through it with the cars, and my wife is like hated me for it because like that was a hobby I had. I mean, I know you like cars. I love cars too. Even though I didn't have a car, I still loved them. But like, so I was looking for different cars for myself. And it was just a hobby of like always looking for a car, always looking, this car has this car has this, of like, we
That's
also
fun.
The culture we have is like very car centric, right?
It is, especially here in America.
Totally, but definitely a hobby about like, looking at cars, and I kind of like piece of junk cars, piece of crap cars.
You like piece of crap cars, huh?
Oh, totally, man. I love a hatchback, a cheap car. We spend way too much on cars. That's my personal opinion.
Oh yeah.
But I love my little car.
Absolutely.
You have your Honda. I mean, you have your awesome Honda.
Yep.
Right? That thing's gonna run forever.
It will.
Yeah.
I mean, those are pretty cheap and
Yeah.
easy to maintain.
Yep.
They're good on gas. They're reliable.
Yep.
I mean, yes, I have a 2012 Honda Accord, and honestly, I plan to keep that thing as long as it runs. I don't see a need to go out and buy another car. I don't see to go out and, spend any more money than I already have on that.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, I think that, my aunt once told me on my mom's side that, honestly, a car is one of the worst investments you could make.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get back what you put out for it, even if you tried to sell it. So to all those people that, are out there buying, unless they really have the chops or means to do it, the ones that are out there buying, $300,000 cars and whatnot, it's a horrible investment when you think about it.
1,000%. I got this 2013 Chevy Volt. I mean, it's 11 years old. The body's fine. I mean, the paint's a little fading, but it's a great car. It's like plug-in hybrid, and it's like gets amazing gas mileage.
No, those are great cars. They get a great gas mileage.
Now,
one of my neighbors has one. Mm-hmm. My friend's sister used to have one. I've been in plenty of those.
Yeah, this car, every day I'm in it, it's made really well, and so that's the hobby I have, is I'll really do a deep dive into whatever I'm interested in. Like a car, I'll like learn all about the Chevy Volt and like everything about it, where they made them.
You're like me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably not as good as you, I bet. I mean, I've seen you work, and you work very hard. So yeah, I'll try to find out everything, like what the quirks are, what to look for. And so
you do your research.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And it's a good hobby. I mean, I feel like, just like you said, I mean, the car's the worst investment you can make. And so when you do buy one, you want to make sure you're getting a good one. And
exactly.
So yeah, that's my hobby.
So if you had one word to describe yourself, what would it be?
Oh man, Joey, good question. One word to describe myself, I would say passionate. Yeah, I get into it, you know.
Passionate.
Passion. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good one.
No, that's a really good one.
Is that a good one?
That's a great one.
I just get into things, you know. And that may be again the you know, you got to be passionate about what you do, but at the same time, you know, it's like I think I'm like on the gas and off the gas. So maybe I don't know. That's a good one. You know, like when I'm into it, I'm into it, but then when I'm relaxed, I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
I'll be passionate about relaxing. I'll be passionate about coffee. Be passionate about.
You be passionate about a lot of things.
Right? Yeah.
I'm incredibly passionate in what we're doing right here, right now.
Oh, me too.
So on a different note, I know that you are a huge football fan.
Passionate about
that.
So
am I.
Yep.
As I am too. And I know we're both 49ers fans here.
Yep.
So, in your opinion, how do you think the 49ers are going to do coming into the 2024 season?
It's so hard to tell because the expectations are so high.
Yes.
Of course, I want them to win the Super Bowl. I'm like Super Bowl or you know, I think what I think is going to happen, I want them to have a great season, of course. It's hard. I mean, I think they're for sure going to go to the playoffs. Teams are just so freaking good. I mean, the caliber of teams out there are just amazing, right?
They
all
are,
the people
to be honest.
And the rookies coming in, like, it's just going to be really tough to keep them going at the level they've been playing at, you know? And that's always people forget. They make it look easy. That's one thing of what I love about Brock Purdy. I mean, they make it look so easy, right? Like, throw the ball and catch the ball, right?
Brock Purdy's incredible.
Oh,
he just is.
Love it.
He I mean, honestly, you know, this is just my personal opinion. I may sound biased here, but I think he's miles better than Jimmy ever was.
Well, yeah, you know, I always feel like I agree with that, but it's a hard comparison to make. I like to say, you know,
well, Jimmy was very different.
Yeah. Oh,
he's
very
say
different.
That.
Yeah, you know, and I like to use the term because for me, like compare and despair. Right, because if it's like I think about my profession, would you ever compare me to your old teachers? You know, Karen and Margaret, right? No, we're different, right?
You guys are just so different.
We're so different, and I feel like we forget that almost in sports. It's like, oh, this person did a really good job. Oh, that person didn't do. They're out there doing their best, right? You know, and
obviously
they're judged so harshly for when they make a mistake.
Always
right?
judged, and it's like I do feel like Jimmy got judged way too much.
Totally, same here. I mean, that guy is incredible and miles ahead of what I could ever do for myself.
Oh,
right?
Same here.
And
absolutely.
It's like, I feel like a part of our culture too is like people just feel like they can just take shots at whoever they want to take shots at. Right?
I hate to say it. I think that has to do with the internet. It's so easy to go online, get in front of that keyboard, and boom, shoot your shot and throw shade at whoever you want. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's disgusting. It really is.
Totally. And it's become this thing
it's become normal.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
People don't even think about it. It'd be like, oh, this person, he's trash or this or that. It's like, I feel like anyone who's doing that, like that's their dream. That's incredible. They're pursuing their dream. When you really take a step back, they've dedicated their whole life to that. Right?
Exactly.
You know, and like, so but go ahead.
And like back to your thing, like would I ever compare you to like Karen and Margaret?
Yeah.
It's almost like to our viewers, would you ever compare me and Patrick? No, because we're like totally different people doing different things. Or like, would you compare Patrick and Alex, who I had on last week? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Two totally different people doing totally different things.
And so
different
I feel
styles.
like the Niners, you know, they're in their element for sure, you know, and they've found their kind of their speed. But again, it's like I I hope that they do really well. If they don't, I'm still going to support them and I still love them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, I mean, that's just being a loyal fan right
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
I mean, I felt that way during their worst season ever back in 2016.
Yeah. Pro sports have just become so elevated, but also like another thing that's been kind of weird is like how much more focus on the draft there is and all this stuff. It's like, I mean, our guy, Brock Purdy, he was the last pick and look at what he's done. I mean, it's incredible what he's done as the last pick, right?
Oh, it is.
Yeah. And it's like,
I mean, I mean, honestly, I think at this point, calling him Mr. Irrelevant is disrespectful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he is incredible.
It just shows like all this emphasis that has been in football and like where it's at right now is just completely misguided, I feel like. And it's like,
oh yeah, it's very misguided.
And it's in a way, it's really about like, I think just talking about this, it's really about people's mental health.
Yes.
It's really about supporting people, right? And I think that's kind of where I'm at with football. Yeah.
Nice. So before we close out here, Patrick, is there anything else that you would like to add or ask me?
Oh man, I appreciate you having me on so much. I really do. It's humbling to be here, and be on your show. And I've seen you from the outside and just seen all the work you've done. Just I want to add that's not easy, right? I mean, like I see how hard you work and I appreciate that. I wanted to ask you, how do you get all these amazing like the ideas you have to do all these different things? Like, does that come to you, or like is that a part of creativity? Like, how does creativity happen for you?
Honestly, that's a very, very tough question to answer, Patrick.
It's a big question, man.
It's a big question, Patrick. But what I guess I was trying to say, to answer your question in the best way possible, I think my creativity, it just comes from my pure heart. It really does. And I have all these things. A lot of the things that I bring to the table, I've came up with much earlier in my life, so to speak. Yeah. And so I kind of just go into my wheelhouse and figure out, okay, what could I bring to life? And I'm always, honestly, being autistic, my mind is always going. I mean, my mind is always on. I'm always thinking about something. I'm always doing something. And so I think that through that is where a lot of these ideas come around. I think, my environments definitely have to do with it sometimes. It really kind of just like I get inspired by certain things. So I figure, okay, what could I do with this? And then I kind of just take it and run with it.
It's like expressing yourself, right?
Exactly.
It's like that is, and didn't even bring up, autism at all as well. Like, cause I feel like you're you, right? And it's like, I feel like this is such a accurate display of you, but expressing yourself is hard. Right, it's not easy to
very hard.
Like, and I've made so many mistakes in my life. I feel like, right, like to see you do this is just like I'm like, oh, this is so cool. But it takes a while to get here, But thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime. I want to definitely, and Patrick, I also want to tell you, I think it's incredible what you're doing. I really think that you are just a great person all around.
Thanks, man.
And I think that it's, the amount of heart that you really pour into those kids and that classroom, and then your own family at home, your two little ones and your wife is just, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, yeah, and I feel again humbled to be here, and
I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah,
I really do.
I think another thing I want to add of like, I'm here because there's so many people around me supporting me, right? And the way, like, again, I brought up Karen Margaret. I inherited that class, and I inherited so many amazing things that they had set up. They had spent 30 years, close to 30 years
30
there.
years of teaching.
Right?
And honestly, you had some, I remember when they retired, and hey, Karen and Margaret, if you guys are listening to this, hello.
Yeah.
Hello
What's
from
up,
both
Karen
of
and Margaret?
us.
Yeah, shout out.
Big shout out to Karen Breslin and Margaret Balmana. They were my teachers for the first few years I was in Burlingame High School. 30 years of just pure greatness.
Yeah.
But when you got there, you had some big freaking shoes to fill.
Exactly. I mean, they had been there for a long time, but again, it's like they say we stand on the shoulders of giants, right?
We really do.
I was able to do a lot. Like one example is all the relationships they built with the school and the different classes that they had. I mean, it was such an easy process for me. All this work that
because they built a legion.
So
they really
much.
did.
Like, and so just being appreciative. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, you know, it's really good to appreciate where you've been and all the work that other people have done that have allowed you to,
especially the ones that came before you.
Yeah, the ones that came before you. Like, again, the people that built our community in Burlingame, they designed it really well, right? It's like the things you don't even think about.
They did,
but like Karen and Margaret, they've moved on, but I hope that they know there's a lot of gratitude that I feel for being able to. It just makes me do what I do, so I can go spend time with my family,
exactly,
and do those things, right?
And I think on like that note, I could almost say the same thing about myself. Like a lot, like even the place I'm living in now.
Yeah.
We inherited this house from my grandparents, Gene and Leo Dunn, and they were here. They lived here. They bought this house in 1965, and they were here until they passed away in 2013. We moved in shortly around that time, and so we not only inherited the house, but, we also inherited all the traditions, especially that my grandmother fostered here, all the holidays and everything else. We inherited all of that. And so my mom, and then now me, as I've gotten older and more involved, we had to figure out a way to kind of continue that on, so to speak.
Totally.
And I think that we have successfully, and it's been more than 10 years now.
Yeah. And when I bring up Karen and Margaret, the examples and what I hear too, so you have these amazing examples around you, and there's things you carry on, and there's other things like you put your own stamp on it,
Yeah, and I think that we've done that. I think that you've done that. Mm-hmm. Like I think that the morning show and the things like that wasn't something that, we ever had with them. That was something that was unique to you. That's something that you brought in yourself.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
Yeah, and I also want to bring up too all the examples around me. I mean, I have an amazing family too. Both my parents, my mom and dad. My mom lives in Santa Cruz, dad lives in Campbell. They're incredible. They've just been so supportive of me my entire life. So shout out mom and dad.
That's so cool.
And also my father-in-law and mother-in-law, my wife's parents, they've been so supportive to me, and they live really close by too. They live in San Mateo. Shout out Paul and Donna. And to see them though, to see them in my life too has been super great. To be a dad, I mean, I've learned so much from them. And like, for example, one thing, my baby was having a hard time the other day when I went down there. My dad just takes the baby, takes the bottle, and just whoop, just like super easy, You're just like, oh my God. But anyways, I mean, there's a lot to be grateful for. Things get hard, but I think the best thing we can do when things get hard is, look around at what you got.
Yes, and look at what's around you and be grateful for it.
Yep.
I think that's huge. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for being here and being on our show. It's such an honor to have you as our second guest.
Yeah. Great to be here. I can't believe it's already over, man.
Yeah, it went by fast, didn't it?
I'm a talker. It's good. It's fun.
I'm a talker too. It's one of the reasons I actually made this show is to channel it.
This is my first being on any podcast ever.
Really?
Yeah. Never done a podcast.
Well, welcome,
before.
Man. This is so cool.
This is cool, man. Yeah.
So, well, anyways, Patrick, thank you so much for being here. You guys, if you are interested in being on my show or know someone that is, please contact me through my personal Facebook or Instagram at Joey Guden, or through JG Show Official on Instagram, or contact us. You can email us at jgshowofficial@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The JG Show, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Patrick, for being here. It's such an honor to have you here once again. And I think that's going to be it, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, JG Nation.